Welcome back to another episode on the Expand Your Awareness 2.0 podcast. My name is Aaron Doughty, and today we're going to be going deep on understanding what we can do to transform the outer world and what we can also do to transform the inner world, especially when it comes to understanding racism, prejudice, judgments that we may have within ourselves, and understanding one of the most powerful healing modalities that I've ever found. It's one that I learned when I went to Tony Robbins' I learned it way before going to Tony Robbins' conference, but I did notice that that's one of the main things he teaches, which further wired in the understanding and the power of what is called Ho'oponopono. And as a white person, what I wanted to do as well is to share with other people, black, white, any people of color, what we can do to transform the world, what we can do to transform also inside of ourselves, and understanding different levels of prejudice that may have been, in a way, subconscious from levels of social conditioning. So first off, let me say this. Unconditional love is who we really are. We are unconditional love. Anything other than that is something that we learned and is what is called a program. It is a program. It is a programmed way of being, a programmed way of thinking. And normally it's a program that's also made out of fear. People at a certain point feared someone else having power, feared someone else based on the color of their skin, and then started to judge and then started to create this separation. Here's something I've always thought about when it comes to race as well. Race is so relative. Think about it like this. Imagine that you went to another planet, and on this planet, there were jellyfish beings, there were different types of beings that you could hardly understand, there were gaseous beings that were like floating around, there were, different type of insectoid beings, and different type of extraterrestrial beings. And there you are, the only human there. Now imagine that eventually, after weeks and weeks and weeks, you come across somebody else that is also human. Now you would not care whether they were black, white, person of a different color, of a different race, of a different ethnicity. You would find so much comfort, and you would have so much alike because of that realization that this is another human. So to me, when I see racism and when I look out at it or acknowledge any level of judgment within myself, what I'm able to do is to realize how ignorant it is and how much separation it implies when there's actually way more in common than anything else. It's all relative. It's because we have all these different races on the planet, we're able to look and see, oh, this is different. And because this is different, I'm going to give a different meaning onto it. Now remember, and my perspective on this is every single one of us are eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. This body that we have is just a spacesuit. It's literally a spacesuit. And what we've done in the past is we've had this spacesuit and we've judged other people based on their spacesuit. But it's just a spacesuit. We've all been many different races before in the past as well. We've not just had one life. And get this, this is a whole nother conversation. We've not just had one different race being that of color. We've been different extraterrestrial races before. I know it sounds very out there, but guess what? We are eternal spiritual beings living temporary human experiences. We have not only existed at one level of 3 to 4D consciousness, we've existed at higher levels of consciousness that also include different star systems. Your vastness of your soul and your spirit is so big that it has not just been reincarnated on Earth. You've been in different star systems. So when we talk about racism, we have it on our planet because of our level of ignorance. our lack of awareness. We are not necessarily aware that we are all eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. And my guess is that just in the same way, at a greater level, something we will deal with in the future as well is racism between also different extraterrestrial races, unless we first off heal within ourselves. Even then it'll become, oh, this isn't about just the color of humanoids. It'll be something beyond that, of one day when we're finally ready as a collective for and being around extraterrestrial races. So this is an interesting thing, but my point of this is that we need to deal with this now. We need to deal with this now with where we are. And there's a couple ways that I believe we do this. And one of the main ways we do this is by first off realizing as well that what we are experiencing in the collective consciousness right now and individually, this stuff is getting brought up to the surface, is the ancestral wounds of maybe hundreds or thousands of years of people, a specific group of people being treated in horrible ways. And what we must do is to realize that right now these ancestral wounds are coming up for us to look at, for us to deal with, and for us to let go of. So you may say, well, bro, I'm not racist. And what I would say to you is, well, what you can begin to do is to have so much love and compassion and awareness that there's still social conditioning inside of you. There's still ancestral conditioning inside of you. And what you can do is begin to take 100% responsibility for it. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but I believe that deep down what we can do is do the inner work. I believe there is so much light coming in on the planet right now. So many people becoming aware and going through what is called the Great Awakening, becoming aware that we are eternal spiritual beings having temporary human experiences and eradicating a certain level of control that has been by that of the government and at different shadow levels that we haven't been aware of. But because of this transformation, one of the things that's also doing is bringing up these deep ancestral wounds within our collective consciousness of people that have been treated so bad for such a long period of time, and it is time we become aware of it, we take responsibility for it, and we finally let it go. And that's what I want to talk about in today's episode. So this is about becoming aware of those stories and that conditioning, even at subconscious levels. So the first thing that I want to point your attention to is the story you tell yourself about who you are. The story you tell yourself about who you are. And the story that you learned growing up about who you are and how you relate to other people and how you even relate to other people of color. Because many people will find, remember, anything other than unconditional love is a program. You don't have to beat yourself up, but you do have to become responsible. Take responsibility for any programming that exists within you. And then what you must do is become aware of what it is. It's a program. It's a story. Maybe you learned that story from someone else growing up. Maybe you learned it from some aunt or some uncle or some parent or some little statement people have made or some belief of friends that you grew up with. Become aware of those stories and then see it for what it is. It's just a story. It's not actually true. Many times people will try to get a sense of significance from seeing themselves as separate and then judging someone else for having a different color skin. So it's a way out of fear and into significance. So one of the things that I want you to know and I want to share with you is become aware of the story you tell yourself about who you are and how you relate to other people and what meaning you give to different races. I remember I used to work sales commission jobs selling women's shoes. And I remember that one thing I always tried to do was to never judge someone based on how they look. Not just their race, but even how they look in general. It was a high-end sales commission job. So I was selling shoes that are on the average price point were $800 to $1,200. And I would notice that sometimes other sales employees I would work with would maybe judge someone else based on their skin color. Oh, I don't want to help that person. They're probably not going to buy anything. But judging them based on just their skin color. And I remember even there'd be like certain fights, right? So what happens is we'd have certain fights like Floyd Mayweather fight. I lived in Las Vegas. And it would bring in many times certain types of people. We'd get an abundance of certain people with different skin colors on certain times of when those fights would happen. And people sometimes would hate working those shifts because they would complain and tell themselves a story that these people are a certain type of customer. And many times what I found is that was just a story for them. I would do my best to become aware of any time that conditioning would come up within myself so that I could then have a clean slate. And what I found is that having that perspective actually would draw into me some of the best customers that were Black or people of color, or it didn't make a difference. But see, our subconscious stories will reflect back to us whatever we believe to be true. So the thing that I want to encourage you to do is to become aware, because even when I had that 9-to-5 job, there were still different things that would be brought up. I'd be around these other coworkers that would think that way, and then I'd find myself in that same pattern sometimes. And I'd have to wake up from it. I had to snap myself out of it and realize that based on the color of someone's skin, that does not imply whether they're going to buy or not, whether they are a certain type of customer or not. That in of itself is a program. So you see, this is what I mean, is taking responsibility. And I want to lead by example here and share with you that in my past, that was one way that people would, and think about it too, people would have something where they helped a customer and that person didn't buy. So what was their excuse? Their excuse would have been, oh, it's because they're this type of customer. Rather than taking responsibility and understanding, it's because of your own belief and your own judgment. See, all the outer reality is a reflection of the inner reality. So part of this is becoming aware of these subconscious stories that we tell ourselves, and even the conditioning. Like, my first girlfriend ever is Black. I dated her for about 6 months. We'd go go through the casinos to like movie theaters and stuff, and I was like 17 or 16, or I forget. I wasn't 18 years old though. And we'd hold hands, and we'd get the weirdest looks from people walking through that. Old people, young people, didn't matter. We'd get the weirdest looks. And she would tell me stories of things that she dealt with growing up. People, older, like adults, talking to when she was a kid, calling her names. Things it was unimaginable for me to really understand, or to even imagine that people were like that. But it made me aware that there's definitely a lot that people like, people of color deal with, that a lot of white people may not understand. And I think that it's having compassion also. Compassion and understanding that we're not going to understand. And the most level, like I think about it even the other day. What happened the other day? My buddy Victor and I were in Whole Foods in Sedona. We go into Whole Foods in Sedona, and there's a lady at the front, and she's passing out masks. She's like, "Here, take your mask." And I'm like, "Do we have to wear that mask?" And it's a whole topic in of itself, but I'm not wearing a mask. Here's the mask. Wear your mask before you go in. And I was like, "Do I have to?" And she's like, "No." And then Victor, or something like that, I was like, "No, I'm good." I just said, "No, I'm good." And I kept walking. Victor was like, my buddy Victor Odo, many of you know him. He was like, "Do we have to wear the masks?" And she goes, "Where I wear my mask, so I'm protecting you," was what she said. And in a way, in that moment, and then we still were like, "No, we're good." It's just an individual. I'm not encouraging people. When you wear a mask, there's been a lot of studies that have shown that when you wear a mask, you actually increase the chances of whatever's going on, and if that's even I don't see a correlation personally. That's my own personal opinion. I encourage you to think for yourself. I'm not, I realize I have a platform and I reach a lot of people, so I'm not trying to put ideas in your heads, but my own belief system is that I don't need it. I don't want to wear it. I don't want to buy into the fear. That's my own belief system, and I'm honoring that. So the way she said it, though, was almost like a shamefulness, like I wear mine to protect. It's almost like, in a way, we felt also judged. There was another time of that same day where we then went bike riding. We got these cool mountain bikes. I'm getting ready to move to Sedona, have a house there that I'll be there much more of the time. And I'm getting a nice mountain bike. And we got a mountain bike. We went to this trail, and we didn't realize, but we were off the trail of the bike trail, and we were on like a walking trail. And we were getting these crazy looks from people. And eventually one lady said, "Hey, you're not supposed to be on this trail. This is for walking only, blah, blah, blah." And in the way we realized, oh yeah, we're actually wrong. We need to be on the right trail. We need to get on the right trail. But in that moment, we felt judged. Now, the reason I'm saying this to you is because even what I felt was 1% of 1% of what many people of color, many black people have had to deal with before. So when I say that I don't understand what they go through, it's because even the level of judgment and racism that I've experienced in my life, and even the racism that I experienced of, I've dated and I've been attracted to women many times that are of different color than I am. I've dated women that were of many different ethnicities. And I've had it come up before where when dating them, there's judgment. And it's been something I've had to deal with too. And even then, as I say this right now, I'm not trying to say, hey, I've dealt with this. I'm just saying, even what I've dealt with is 1% of 1% of that. Even the girlfriend that I dated back in high school, I remember one time we were driving and she told me that her older brother, who was 5 or 6 years older than us, he was probably 20-something years old, and I was 16. She's like, who's that white boy you're talking to? You better not be dating him. And I remember when I heard that, I was like, huh. In a way, I felt that way. And when I say this right now, once again, I'm not saying pity me. What I'm saying is even that, dealing with that is something that feeling that I had was probably something that many people of color have had to deal with over and over and over again at many different levels and more extreme levels than that. But nonetheless, the reason I'm sharing this is for us to realize and have compassion for people that have for so long been treated so horribly. I think one of the reasons I've also resisted racism growing up is my ex-stepmom, who many of you heard me talk about before. She was emotionally, physically, mentally abusive. From 7 to 15 years old, she was in my life. 15 years old, my dad divorced her. Before that, though, being around her, she was very racist. We'd be driving down the street, and she would say something and be like, oh, look at that. She'd say the N-word. She would refer to people in a very negative way. All people of color as well. And I remember we'd be in a car and I would hear her say these things. And I think because I disliked her so much and I so disliked being around her, especially when I got out of having to ever see her again, I was always very resistant of it. So sometimes we model what we see growing up or we reject it and we refuse it. But I definitely rejected it. But even then, hearing that, when I was, 11, 12 years old, I think to myself, at what level was that maybe have conditioned into me? And that's why what I'm trying to share with you today is the way that you can eradicate racism out of your life is by first off going within and changing yourself. And realizing that if you're experiencing anything on the outside and you're experiencing this racism, this prejudice, that it means that there's something inside of you that can be healed. It is what is called cleaning with Ho'oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian healing modality. And this healing modality is extremely powerful because what it points to is that there really is no outer reality. Now, for example, so first off, become aware of this. Let's recap a little bit of what we've learned so far. Become aware of the subconscious stories that we tell ourselves about who we are and how we relate to other people. Become aware of the stories we tell ourselves about people of different races, of different color, and realize that many of those are all of them are just programs. They're programs that we've bought into a certain point. And one of the first steps is taking responsibility for the program. Even if someone told it to you growing up, even if a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a friend told it to you growing up, you had to first agree to it for it to become a part of you. So that's the first step, is awareness and taking responsibility for it. And then realizing it's just a story. It's just a story. There's a story there about race. There's a story there about significance. And what you have to then begin to do is to realize that because it's a story, you can let go of that story. It's just a story. So now when we look at that, the next thing I want to share with you is Ho'oponopono. Maybe many of you probably have heard me share this before, but I'll share the context that I think is very powerful. And it has to do with understanding, first off, that there's an energy field around our body. And this energy field around our body has within it the collective thoughts that we think, the emotions that we feel, and the conditioning that we have. And when I say that as well, what you'll begin to see is that the energy field around our body has within it the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that we have. And anytime we can perceive on the outside of other things that are happening, whether that is racism, whether that is some type of mistreatment, some type of injustice, if we can perceive it on the outside, then what that means is that on the inside, it's reflecting back something to us. And one of the most powerful healing modalities I've ever found is called Ho'oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian healing modality, which is 4 simple statements. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Now, what am I sorry? Some people say, well, what am I sorry for? All these other people, the ones that are racist, that are doing all of these things. Well, the way that we transform the world is we must first off take responsibility for the energy that we are seeing in the outside. And that's when we say, I'm sorry. Imagine that I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, is your conversation with the divine. And what you're saying I'm sorry for is I'm sorry for all the injustice in the world. I'm sorry for all the injustice within me. I'm sorry for any of the racism that I'm seeing in the outer world. I'm sorry for any of the programming inside of me. I'm taking responsibility for it, because if I'm seeing it on the outside, then most likely it is on the inside. It is on the inside if I'm perceiving it on the outside. I'm sorry for what George Floyd went through. You see, that's it. We see it on the outside, but it means we're saying it on the inside. I'm sorry for what all black people have to go through with being treated differently for thousands of years. I'm taking responsibility for that. I am sorry for that. And as we begin to take responsibility for it, we begin to transform the world. It starts from changing the inside and bringing the shadow from the inside. Realize a lot of ancestral wounds are coming up from right now, and what we can begin to do is to heal from the inside out. I'm sorry. I'm taking responsibility, because if I'm seeing it on the outside, it's on the inside. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Forgiveness is the key to all healing. Please forgive me for any ignorance inside of myself. Please forgive me for any inner judgments that I've ever had. Please forgive me for allowing this to happen for so long. This is how we transform the world, by taking responsibility. Now, here's another important part of the process that a lot of people forget. So it's, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. Thank you. Remember, you're talking to the divine. Thank you. Thank you for that transformation. Thank you for letting go of this subconscious story and this program and this conditioning. Thank you for making me aware of it so that then I could transform it. Thank you for allowing me to see other people, knowing that we are all 100% worthy, whole, and complete, and that this body is just a spacesuit. And thank you for making me aware of that. And I want you to know that I love you. I love all of you. That is who you are. We are all unconditional love. Anything else is a program. I love you, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're a person of color, any minority, any culture. I love you. I am you. So what I am doing is I am going through this process and I am healing. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And here's the important part people forget as well. We must also see ourselves and see the world as healed and more equal. You see, Dr. Len in that hospital in Hawaii, who's known for like making this process very popular, what he did is he had 50 insane clients, or these people in an insane asylum that was protected. There were nurses there that were afraid of getting attacked. It was very violent. What he did is he never actually met any of the clients there. He just went through their files and he would heal within himself, and he would do what is called cleaning. Cleaning is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. He would then see these people as healed. He would then see them as whole and complete. And as he would go within himself and also heal any parts of himself that was bringing up, any emotion that was bringing up, he would then transform them. Within 2 years, almost every single one of them was completely healed and transferred to another unit out of the insane asylum, which bears the question, what is reality? Reality is a reflection of our inner reality. Outer reality is just a reflection. So when I'm talking about if you want to create change in the world, you want to eradicate racism, realize that you must take responsibility for the collective consciousness of it as well, and the individual consciousness of it. And say those 4 simple statements, clean, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry for everything people of color have had to go through, all things black people have had to go through, mistreating. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry. I'm taking responsibility for anything within myself that has ever thought of myself in some little significant way. Any social conditioning that has been brought up, any programming from ancestors, any programming from my environment growing up. I'm sorry for allowing that into my consciousness. I'm sorry for allowing this to happen at a collective level as long as it has. Please forgive me for that. Please forgive me. Forgiveness is the key to all healing. Please forgive me for allowing this to happen. Please forgive me. And I want you to know that I thank you. Thank you for allowing this transformation to happen. Thank you for bringing this to awareness. And thank you for allowing me to reduce any level of ignorance that exists within my own consciousness and that also exists within the world. Thank you. And I love you. Love is who you naturally are. Love is who I naturally am. I love you. One of the most powerful ways we can transform the outer world is by cleaning and seeing it as already healed. Imagine everyone experiencing unity. Imagine people not judging people based on the color of their skin. Imagine everyone has equal rights. Everyone is treated with love and kindness and compassion and understanding. Imagine that in this world, and it can be ours. We just have to imagine it. We have to be it. To make choices about who we are. But one of the most powerful ways you can transform the world right now is by going within yourself and healing. Going within yourself and using these 4 simple statements. Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And if you want to take this step a little bit further, there's a process that I have that uses Ho'oponopono, gets to the deep subconscious beliefs of worthiness, understanding who we are, and it is called the shift experience. The shift experience is a step-by-step process of shifting what is called your identity, your beliefs about who you are. Your whole life is a complete reflection of who you believe you are. Your level of income that you make, the kind of relationships you have, the kind of health you have, the body image you have, everything you have is because of your identity. The shift experience is a shift beyond that identity and into a completely new reality, where you are doing what you love, you changing not just at the mind level, but at the behavioral level. By the end of the shift experience, you will be a completely new person. You will be embodying more of your purpose, more of your passion. You will have more clarity, more confidence. You will be a completely new version of you. That is what the shift experience will help you to do. And there's no going back once you start, because you will become aware of these stories. You'll be healing, and you'll be embodying this new version of you, knowing that this version of you right now is just a story you tell yourself that's on autopilot. When you break out of that, you become a brand new version of you. So you can go to that of www.theshiftexperience.com. That is www.theshiftexperience.com. Or you can go to Aaron Doughty, AARONDOUGHTY.com/shift, SHIFTNOW, shift now. AaronDoughty.com/SHIFTNOW, and you can shift now. You'll see some bonuses there as well, but this is the most powerful process I have that will help you unroot all of this. So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So with that being said, if you could share this episode on Instagram, share this wherever you see fit. This will help so many people, I think, to eradicate and heal the world, to heal the racism and the prejudice that exists at subconscious levels inside of us based on ancestral wounds and these different levels. So if you could share this episode, it'd mean the world to me. It'll also help the planet. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think of it. Review the podcast if you haven't reviewed it yet as well. It really means the world. Helps me to know to do more podcast episodes as well. And other than that, as always, I'll talk to you next time. Peace, much love, and namaste.